Hello, everyone. Welcome to the bi-weekly standing delegate call. On the agenda today, just a few quick proposal updates, as always, before we jump into some more TPP Builder presentations. So yeah, just to jump into the proposal updates, ZIP9 is live on chain for voting right now. As you see here, it's almost a quorum. So if you haven't voted quite yet, please go over and do so. I will share the link in the chat here. ZIP9 is, of course, the V27 EVM emulation. If you have not read the proposal or seen the recording from last week's proposal review call, I highly recommend going to watch that. We had Porter join who gave a really great overview. And there's also a nice Twitter video he posted talking about that proposal. So I recommend going to take a look at those things. I'll also share the notes and recording from the proposal review call last week because we hit on all the proposals that I'm going to give updates on right now as well. So yeah, that's ZIP9. Voting closes on Thursday, but as we're in that 3-day voting delay or the voting extension window now, whenever quorum is met, the voting window will be extended 3 additional days from the point quorum is met. So yeah, I'll, as always, do the announcements in the delegate or the Telegram delegate channel, and then also on X as well. Next up, just quick update on timeline update on ZIP10. They're still working on compiling the final call data for the proposal before being able to submit it on chain. I don't have any more details than that at the moment, but yeah, they're still trying to prepare and finalize the call data for ZIP10 before it goes on chain. This is, of course, the whitelisting of Gateway as a ZK chain within the Elastic network as a settlement layer for the Elastic network. So there's also a nice section of notes in the recording from the proposal review call last week on this as well. Then last up, just on the forum, this is a TPP for the ZIP Audit Reimbursement Program, or ZARP, as we started calling it now. This proposal is basically an annual program that would reimburse security audit costs for successfully executed protocol upgrades. So in this one, there's no status update at the moment in terms of, it's still up for discussion on the forum. In terms of when it will go on chain, I know they're still waiting to finalize for the past or for the audits that have been completed already in 2025. There's the Security Council still working on verifying all of those, so to include them in the retroactive or the past audit reimbursement cat mentor. So before that can be deployed, they need to verify all of those. So, and before that has to be deployed and confirmed before being submitted on chain. So also TBD on that, but likely either end of this week or early next week, possibly going on chain. But yeah, and then that also, I apologize, I'm behind on my links sharing here. So that's the link to ZIP10 in the chat just there. And then this is the link to TPP3. I'm also going to share a link to the call notes and recording from the proposal review call last week, which dove a lot deeper into each of these proposals. And there's some nice helpful links and notes there as well for you folks to take a look at if you haven't reviewed already. Any quick questions before we dive into TPP builders? Okay, great. So then Today we are going to continue our TPP Builder series. This is a series that, or it was started as a category on the forum to try to encourage folks or teams who are building tools that could be used for token mechanics or automation of token programs. So that there is a whole category in the forum where a lot of teams have already posted their kind of presentation for a TPV builder, but we also thought it would be a fun opportunity to get some of these teams to present. So this is this call series. This is the third week we're doing this. So that's it's been a lot of fun. The last few delegate calls where we've had these presentations, it's been really cool to see some tangible examples of how these different tools could possibly be used for token mechanics, and to get kind of like a teaser as to how token mechanics could actually look. So today we have Open Source Observer presenting, as well as Scopelift, who was the team who helped develop the cat mentor structure. So really going back to basics, the kind of core piece of token mechanics there today. So that'll be really exciting. Alex, I believe we have agreed that your poor soul has to go first today.
Cool. Yeah, I can go first.
Great.
All right. So I put together a pretty bare bones presentation. This is like a key building block to any token proposal. So I imagine you guys are going to have a lot of questions as we talk through things. So please, if at any point you have a question or a digression or anything, please raise your hand, ask your question. We can talk through it. But I'm going to give a quick overview of cap minters, kind of how they're built, how they're pretty unopinionated, can be used to be the basis of your token program, and can sort of be used to be built on top of. So just like taking a step back, a token proposal will require some sort of program to make a proposal on chain, and the program's funds will live in this cap minter, and they don't live as tokens balance, but they live as a right to mint up to a certain cap of tokens. So in this example, the program has allocated 100,000 ZK that it can mint. There's an admin that can give rights to other addresses, contracts, or subcap minters. So if your program, let's say, your program has 100,000 ZK allocated to it, but you want to create a sub program within your program, you could create another cap minter to give that piece of the program 20,000 ZK. And ultimately, this all rolls up to the DAO in that original proposal, because the DAO gives this sort of parent or canonical cap minter of your program the right to mint on the token. So you can build these cool nested structures. You can, in the future, you could have protocols on top of cap minters that give different minting rights based on certain traits or attributes. And ultimately, you could have programs that run almost autonomously that don't need that admin piece on the capped minter. And that sort of aligns with the cypherpunk values of ZKsync. If we can have programs that are have the guardrails of governance, but then can be run autonomously through some sort of rules, I think that's kind of the goal, the sort of guide star that we want to work towards. So for anyone who's more technical minded, I wanted to kind of at least show the contract, because this is what we ultimately built and what's deployed each time, to give you a sense of the different features on a capped minter as you think about designing your programs. So when you create a program, you have your token or capped minter, you have an admin, which doesn't necessarily, you don't need an admin, you have your cap, and then you have a specific time period where your program is active, gives you the right to mint for that program. On the program, you can also, let's say governance realizes, hey, like this program isn't working out, or like there's some reason that the program needs to stop for some period of time. There's an ability to pause. There's a role to pause the program. And then there's also an ability to close the program. So if the program's deemed unnecessary and there's some tokens that still can be minted, this can be stopped through the admin of the capped minter. Could be a security council, could be governance, could be whoever's running the program. And those are like the key pieces here for a capped minter. So to give a sense of like where this is being used, there's currently a program on the forum for audit reimbursement. So this program uses a capped minter in order to fund audit reimbursements for audits for the protocol. And in this program, we actually give the protocol governor a capped minter, and it is the admin, like we talked about earlier. And when a new audit needs to be paid, a new capped minter is created. There's a proposal that the protocol governor gives the right of the auditor's capped minter to mint, and then they can be paid for their services ultimately. So that's like an example.
Alex, actually, can you go back to that again? Could you scroll down a little bit? Because I think the piece that's really interesting here, so it's not just deploying a like parent cap minter where the funds, are distributed by a multi-sig, for example, like they were in Ignite, or by a like the Merkle distribution contract, but where the DSC still had to like coordinate the minting and put like sending the tokens through that distribution contract alongside with Merkle. In this case, there is no need for that because there's this nested cap minter structure that's being utilized, which is enabled with the cap minter v2 that was deployed a few months ago now. And every time a protocol upgrade is submitted, they also include all they do is include in the call data, they create another a child cap minter that would be able to mint from that parent cap minter of the program. And if the protocol upgrade is successfully passed, there's also specific calls included in the protocol upgrade, like in the zip on Tally, that would then grant the minter role from the parent of the ZARP program to the child for that specific security audit reimbursement. And then the team that executed the audit reimbursement would automatically have minting rights to be able to mint the equivalence of the amount that was used for the audit reimbursement. So it's an automated system using purely cap minters, and the only kind of human, I guess, piece or interaction of it is just the security council verifying the amount of the invoices for audit reimbursements. So there's no multi-sig. There's no oversight committee. It's just CAT mentors, which I think is super cool.
Yeah, and that's ultimately what the program wants to be in the future, right? Right, Shelby?
Well, I mean, it depends on the program. I think every program is going to have different needs or different needs, or it's going to try to be achieving different goals, and it will need different mechanics. So beyond CAT mentors in a lot of cases as well. But the CAT mentor is really like the core, kind of like the core building block of token mechanics. And this is just the first, very clear example of what this mechanic could look like, and like at the purest form of just CAT mentors, like no hats or drips or whatever, pool together, whatever the other builder presentations we've seen over the past few weeks as well. But you could make a really lovely collaboration amongst all of them. But yeah. The CAT mentor is the core piece.
One thing that I'll just add here, so the start and end date are the beginning of a pattern of allowing admins to or designers or architects to introduce other types of like token flow control. So think about it like valves or gauges. And so you have a fixed start and end date, but I'm sure that in the future we might have other things like a mint delay. So you mint, but you have to wait 7 days, or you might have something like a rate limiting. So you can mint, but you can only mint up to, X million of ZK per day, and so on and so forth. So we can start thinking about these like modifiers, so minter mods. Really cool stuff that Scopelift helped kind of bring to reality. But definitely simply one step at a time.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions? That was pretty much what I wanted to cover. Any questions from anyone about CAT mentors, how the contracts, etc.?
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Alex, for coming on to present. I'm also just about to share the forum post that Rocco posted when the CAT Mentor V2 launched a few months ago. This has all of the details, all of the contracts, including testnet contracts, if you folks want to play around with these things yourself, as well as some instructions on how to deploy and verify. If you're already a cool dev, know how to do that, maybe you don't need that. Some of us might need that. So those are there if you need those. Great. Okay, thank you. If there's any question for Alex, we'll move on to open source observer. I believe Carl is on the call. Awesome, Carl.
Well, let me present. Hey everyone, sorry I'm a little bit late. Had another meeting I was coming from.
No worries.
I kind of missed the tone of the first presentation. So are we basically doing, 10 minutes or so presentation and then some Q&A? Does that work?
Yep. Exactly.
All right, great. Well, nice to be here with everyone. Myself and Rohit, who's also here, we are working on a public utility called Open Source Observer. And we're going to talk to you today about how we can use metric oracles for token allocation. I think that long term, as we've been discussing, we want to go from having these kind of complex processes for approving grant allocations and then ultimately dispersing it via multisig to some kind of programmatic smart contract-based mechanics. And in order to do that, there's a few kind of building blocks that are necessary. So first, you need different types of verifiable public event data that's easy to read from, that anybody can access and verify. You also need standard interfaces for linking and kind of composing different metrics on top of all of the different things that a product might own. So obviously there are things like a deployer address and contracts that a project owns. But there might be other things as well, like trying to link it to, say, DeFi Llama protocol slugs or GitHub repos or packages that are maintained by a team. And effectively, once you start going beyond one data source, it actually gets quite complicated to map all of the different things that a project might own and how those relate to broader work that's happening within the ZK ecosystem. The next thing is that any logic that is being used to determine rewards, to determine eligibility, to determine if something qualifies, should be transparent and auditable. It shouldn't be some kind of black box where you need to ask a person to explain how things work. But ideally, anybody can come in, verify what is happening, ideally reproduce it, and understand how the incentive system is working. And then, of course, there needs to be credible governance in some way of kind of lodging disputes or resolving claims that might be in conflict. So all these things are kind of the building blocks that you need. The role that we at OSO play is that we are trying to build the open infrastructure for doing this type of work. So one part of this is creating the data models that allow you to track projects and create different cohorts of projects. A cohort might be a group of projects that all received grants or some kind of incentive, or it could be a set of developers that are all using the ZKsync SDK. There are different ways that you can define a related group of projects. That should be fully flexible. But in any case, you often want to look at a project and you want to look at similar projects that are doing things that are related to the project that you care about. The next thing is being able to identify and kind of union all of these different data sets. So of course you have on-chain data, you have off-chain sources as well. This could be anything, again, from like GitHub to DeFi Llama to package libraries, and the list goes on. And then ultimately some way for people to create and share their own metrics. And that is going well above and beyond the 10 or 15 or so metrics that we commonly see in crypto, where ideally people can create any arbitrary set of metrics and they can apply them in any way that they like. So we kind of are creating infrastructure that allows people to do that kind of work. On top of that, we also work with data scientists that can partner with ecosystems to increase the ROI of token allocation programs, to test out their own metrics, and design different types of incentive programs. So really, there are kind of two things here. Number one is like the infrastructure, the data engineering infrastructure to do this kind of work. And then number two is kind of a community of data scientists that are actually putting it to use and helping different ecosystems improve their incentive programs. Now, one thing that's kind of unique about us, everything that we are doing is also fully open source. The infrastructure is fully open. All the data sets that we're using are public. And so you can go on our GitHub, you can see OSO, which is the data pipeline. You can see Dagster SQL Mesh, which is the orchestration layer. You can see all sorts of data science notebooks that we kind of post in the Insights repo, and so on. So we try and keep everything fully open and available for the community to use or build upon or contribute. And there's a couple different ways that people can access this data. So we have previously had a data lake where we posted everything, and that was a little bit cumbersome for people to access. You can still do that, but we've also created a Python wrapper so data scientists can come in and get clean data immediately. They can also go upstream of that and get staging models or source data if they want. For web developers, there's a free API that you can use to get metrics and integrate them in some kind of a production app. You can go in, you can clone things, you can fork it if you want to run it yourself. And then there's also some large data sets that we post on BigQuery, which you can subscribe to. But in any case, all of this is intended to help the data community access public data sets and add value to them as quickly as possible. We're not trying to create another walled garden. We're trying to create foundational data sets that the communities can build on top of. So I'll just give you an example of this. The point is really to show how easy this is, not to offer any kind of deep insights, but this was some analysis that I threw together literally this morning before the presentation. So let's just take TVL. So I know that the first round of Ignite ended recently, and so I picked a few protocols that were in there. And with this query to Pyoso, the Python wrapper that I shared a minute ago, again, not expecting you to like debug the query, but basically it's going in and you're able to select the project that you want, and then you can compare those protocols TVL on ZKsync era to any other protocol, and then quickly display that and kind of look at, on a normalized basis, has there been any incremental improvement? Again, the point here is not that there's any deep insight here, but more that this is the type of work that would have taken, I don't know, a day or so to kind of go in and mine the data and link all the right protocols to the names of the projects. And now you can just do in a few lines of code. And you can plot it, you can make it look pretty if you want. But this is an example of one data source. Another one that I thought was cool and easily, very easy to do, I've linked a notebook down here if people want to take a look at it, is actually going in and seeing who are all the developers that are using the ZKsync Ethers SDK, and how has that changed over time. So you can go in, and again, with just a few lines, you can look up all the projects that are importing this into the repo, and then I can pull any set of metrics. We could look at TVL. I picked a different one, which is looking at the number of full-time developers on a monthly basis, and you can see how that has changed over time. There are a lot of protocols that are using it. If you want, you could double-click on these and see which ones they are. But again, these are just some simple test cases to illustrate what is possible by having unified data sets available and at the community's fingertips. So with this data, what can you do? These are just a few ideas. I don't feel strongly about any of them, but just to jog the imagination, we talk about helping builders get their first grant so they can get off the ground. We think it'd be really cool if you could airdrop a small token grant to any consumer app that achieves, say, 1,000 daily active users for more than 30 consecutive days. You can also do a lot of work, releasing incentives to DeFi protocols when they attract or retain a certain amount of TVL. Again, pretty straightforward how you might want to measure that. One thing that we're particularly passionate about is finding ways of funding things that are upstream of the application builders, like developer libraries. So imagine a world where you allocate 5% of gas fees that are generated by applications, anyone who's building an elastic network, and then you use that to fund the developer libraries that they're using. Again, these are all just examples. We don't have any particular loyalty to any of these. What we'd like to see is people using open data sets to create their own programmable incentive programs. So the first criticism that we get whenever we kind of show this type of stuff is, but then people will figure out exactly how to game the metrics, and they will start behaving in ways that we don't want. And to that, I will say, yes, that is definitely going to happen. And we are trying to help communities evolve their metrics and go from a state where many ecosystems are right now, which is that they basically have no metrics at all. All that you're starting with is a proposal saying that you will do something, to a world where at the very least you have some kind of way of measuring whether someone achieved the thing that they said they're going to do. So yes, these are gameable metrics. You set a target and people will definitely change their behavior so that they can achieve just that target, nothing more. But then the next step beyond that is actually saying, okay, in addition to saying you're going to reach the target, we can actually measure what you've done over and above some kind of a longitudinal baseline. So let's look at the past 30 days, 90 days, and look at the net inflows of TVL or the net change in activity as a result of this grant. The next thing you can do, which is quite common in other domains, is basically trying to measure the incremental impact of your incentive program relative to some kind of counterfactual. Now, in the real world, it's very difficult to A/B test the economy. You can't really construct some simulation of what the world is like without having the incentive program and then compare your project to that or your incentive program to that. And so there's various statistical techniques that you can use to kind of model what a counterfactual might be. We'll kind of put this in the realm of advanced metrics. And I feel that this is just getting started. So we should be able to very quickly speedrun all this learning that has happened and ideally go to some form of super advanced metrics, which I'm not even going to speculate what that could look like, but is ideally much more robust than things that have been done kind of in traditional Web2 marketing and finance. But the goal is that, yes, there is going to be changing behaviors. People are going to try and game the metrics. And that is precisely the thing we want to learn from as we kind of evolve and move towards much more robust and advanced forms of measuring impact. So I'm getting towards the end here. So just to recap how we might work together. Number one, really important thing is that we are not trying to create another walled data garden. We are trying to basically create a public utility that people can build on top of. And the foundational elements of that are, number one, that all of the data sources, the metrics, the queries, they should be auditable and public and open to the community to inspect. there's a lot of infrastructure which is required in order to do unify all these data sets and have it indexed regularly. But we've built in a way which is completely forkable. So if people don't like what we're doing, they don't trust us, they want to move it somewhere else, then anything can be forked and you can take the data and the infra with you. Composable. So we think that the real power is not coming up with a special metric, but it's actually being able to play around with and layer different metrics and different event sources into contract incentives or into programmatic incentives. So again, we can start with some simple ones like say TVL and developer activity and on-chain activity, but ideally you're able to create derivative metrics or algorithms which are much more robust and ideally have multiple sources which they're taking into account. And then finally, again, we view ourselves purely as a data layer. We don't want to create another committee. All the allocation rules ultimately should be on-chain and permissionlessly governed. We want to get people to be kind of exploring the data and testing out these different ways of using it. But ultimately, the incentive programs to be able to deliver the most growth and the most impact should be the ones that get more funding and are able to scale. The one prerequisite is that in order for any of our data sets to connect is that we do need a public source of index blockchain data. There's a few other ecosystems that we work with that offer some illustrations of how to go about this. Happy to, if there are any data engineers here, happy to kind of talk through what that might look like. But ideally, the goal is to get a public set of index blockchain data, which can then be enriched and combined with other models that exist. Quick recap. So again, as we move towards more programmable autonomous token mechanics, we think that there is a role that metrics can play in this. We think the metrics should be standardized, verifiable, and maximally composable. The role that OSO is playing is to try and create the business intelligence function that might exist in a Web2 company and create a network intelligence version that works for token ecosystems, where you have people that are you have a range of data scientists, analysts that are kind of building on top of open data sets and using that to power metrics-based allocation, gating different grant programs, determining performance awards, and conditional token streaming across ZKsync's Elastic network. So yeah, that's basically it. I've left some contact information here. Our docs are probably the best place to learn more, and happy to take any questions.
Wow, thank you, Carl. That was wonderful. I think you highlighted perfectly just how open source observer, but also like data in general is so critical, or will be so critical to really achieve that automated token mechanic kind of vision or utopia that we're all trying to work towards. And yeah, thanks for the really great examples as well. Those I think were really helpful for folks too. Any questions for Carl? No? Okay, great. Well, I will share all of the links that were shared during the presentations today. Carl, also, if you'd be fine with it, I would love to share your slides as well in the notes,
Yep.
but we can talk about that after the call. But thank you to both Alex and Carl for joining today and presenting two more very fun and exciting pieces, building blocks, token mechanic building blocks to the community today. Now, there's nothing else on the agenda, but given the circumstances of what's going on today, we did want to leave some time at the end of the call to discuss. Rafa and I don't have the full information, but I will share all of the links of the public comms that have been shared already, and we're happy to try to help answer or at least discuss a little bit some questions that you folks may have. There was obviously, as most folks already know, there was a incident with the distribution contracts that were tied to the airdrop. And it was identified that there was a compromise of the admin account that controlled those contracts that minted around 5 million worth of USD of ZK. This was noticed earlier today and has been being addressed throughout the day. The attacker was identified, and there were measures that were taken in order to stop the further action from the attacker. It's really important to note that the attack is purely contained to the airdrop contracts. There were 3 to be specific, and they're actually in the docs. In all docs, I'll just share it here as well. You can see there was 3 Merkle distributor contracts. It's under the active ZK cap minters section on that page I just shared. All 3 of those contracts, those were the only 3 contracts that were compromised. There's no other concern at the moment, or there is no risk of anything else, protocol, ZK token contract, any of the governors, time locks, any other active cap minters that were approved through governance. There's no concern that they were impacted or that they will be impacted in the future. There is also the last link I shared, and oh, did I not? Oh yeah, the set of links. So there's an AMA thread that's been going on Twitter with Alex Scopelift over the last, I think, hour and a half or 2 hours or so. So there's also some questions Q&A happening over there. If anybody has a question, we're happy to try to discuss, but we also are limited in to we only. I know there is a full detailed report that works right now. Will be shared here today, I believe the announcement said. So yeah, that is definitely going to be the place to get all of the answers or the details of the incident once that's finalized and shared. Rafa, did you have anything to add?
Nope. I think one of the things that we're doing as an output of this is just reviewing the different security models for the cap minters across future programs. We've already instituted some changes, including like start and end date that were introduced in the cap minter v2, and there will be other improvements which will come through. So yeah, we'll wait until the investigation completes, and I'm sure there'll be a series of recommendations on some items that we can learn from. But we're grateful that it's an isolated incident, and user funds have been are secure and the protocol is secure. So it seems like really it was just isolated to the compromise of a private key, which I think reinforces already the values and the culture that we've been instituting around thinking about mechanics and not multi-sigs.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions from folks? We want to, also provide a space here for the extent that we can, if there are any questions. Anything concerns about governance or any governance cap minters, if there's any clarification you guys want there, we can also, but like I said, there's no concern at the moment that any cap minter will be impacted because the key it
wasn't related to
multi-sigs. So yeah.
And feel free to send us DMs as well if you have any specific questions. But yeah, we're working on the report. And we're in touch with all the necessary security and engineering team to doing a thorough review of it.
Okay, yeah, and then in regards to further comms, obviously they'll be shared. I'm assuming they'll continue to be shared on the ZKsync Twitter. I will continue to forward all of them. I sent one of them in a Delegate Telegram channel. I also posted a thread on the forum to started a thread on the forum that goes out essentially to tweet. I'll like continue to post all after this call, I don't have time before the call, after this call, I'll like post the relevant threads there, so it's easy to find for everyone. And when the report is published, everything will just be in that thread. Let me hold up quick, and then so folks just see it. But I'll share it in the notes today as well, so people know where to find that. Also open to any other suggestions or requests from folks as well. Obviously, we want to keep you guys informed. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Enos. Thanks for calling that out. I will, I was having issues earlier too, so I will look into that. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for addressing also this. I think this is the space where we should actually hear some news. So anyway, appreciate that you guys addressed it at least here.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, we can close it out. Okay, great. Then if that's everything, we will close the call out for today. I will, as always, have a update, or I'll have the notes and the call recording posted tomorrow. And yeah, we will see you folks online. Thanks, everyone.